In the eternal universe, countless stars seem to flicker quietly, but in fact, every moment, stars are destroyed and new stars are born. Large military starships and medium-sized aircraft carriers are like hunters who bite their prey tightly, and the few starships fleeing in a hurry are their prey. On one of the starships with the head of a terrifying skeleton, a teenager who seems to have come out of the halo is out of tune with everything around him. He is not very old, he looks only 15 or 16 age. His eyes are extremely beautiful, and they seem to be able to shine. When looking at you, you will do anything willingly for this second stop. In fact, everyone who has seen the young man calls him an angel left by God in the world. Only those who know his character well will call him the seductive and fallen Lucifer. On the battlefield at this time, it is just a human toy. It seems that he is not on the battlefield, but is about to attend a gorgeous banquet. Aren't you going to tell me yet? The boy's voice had a strange rhythm, as if every word hit the hearts of everyone, making people ticklish. They couldn't help but up their ears and chase after every syllable of him. Then, needless to say, leaving this sentence, the smile on the boy's face became wicked and bewitching, from a just noble prince to a tempting criminal devil. The big man. The smile on Suhi's face gradually disappeared. This man who once swore allegiance to him, is now disobeying his orders for another person. Young Master, Angzi is innocent, please let him go. The simple and honest man seemed extremely uncomfortable. Remove the body that blocked the boy on the ground. Fraga, I will set you free in the name of Night Demon. Suhi glanced at the big man one last time, and the big man who heard his words was as unbelievable as if he had been hit hard. When Suhi looked away, he finally confirmed the authenticity of what he said, with a painful look on his face, and tremblingly said, "No, young master, Fraga will not leave you." Young master. He was praying for the young man to take back what he just said, but in exchange for the young man's ignorance. The eyes crossed the big man and met Angzi's. Angzi's appearance was very good looking. Even if he was in danger at this time, he still stubbornly looked at Suhi. The hatred and disgust in his eyes were unobstructed. Even deep down there was jealousy that maybe he didn't even realize. Chi! Suhi sneered and left the room. The moment he walked out of the room, an attack came from behind him. Suhi blocked Fraga's attack as if he had eyes on his back. "Turn around and put it under your feet. Master, please, don't leave Fraga." Fraga's voice had a faint weeping sound. It was hard to imagine such a brilliant man in the Star Thief and the military. The famous cruel Star Thief will have the time to beg now. Suhi glanced at Fraga, and there was surprise in the other party's eyes. Regardless of his injured body, he tightly hugged Suhi's calf. "Fraga, I already gave you a chance." Seeing the surprise in Fraga's eyes dissipated like a bubble, intense pain filled the big man's body. Suhi retracted his feet. "No, look at him again. Angzi, I'm very curious about what you are. You can let the entire Pluto thief group be buried with you." Ignoring Angzi's ugly and angry face, Suhi showed his usual smile again, "But it doesn't matter." He turned and left everything behind him, whether it was the infatuation in Fraga's eyes that turned into madness, or the trembling weapon that the boy named Angzi took from his hair. Before the two of them could make a move, an explosion sounded from Angzi. He didn't even have time to point his weapon at the departing devil, and the continuous and violent explosions exploded at close range. Even if he is the first of war in the Empire, and Marshal Panava, who has a three's physique, doesn't even think about surviving. The starship, which was constantly being attacked, was severely damaged again due to the internal explosion. The mechanical alarm sounded throughout the starship, and the starship was suddenly attacked more violently. Suhi watched. A glance at the watch shows that it is not only the military that is attacking this starship, but also the remaining starships of the Pluto Flame Star Pirates. With a sneer, Suhi withdrew his gaze, and sure enough, even if he killed his father and seized the current head of the Star Thief Corps, the always cruel and ruthless second uncle was like a changed person because of the existence of that an Xi. "No matter what, I just want to protect that Angzi." A young man of unknown origin, he knew there was going to be a problem. I originally planned to follow this opportunity and change my name and surname to live on another planet, but unfortunately my luck was worse and I was trapped here. The escape pod was quickly set up by him. When the starship was ejected from the escape pod, the young man seemed to hear the footsteps belonging to the Imperial soldiers, neat, but unfortunately I couldn't see who the leader was this time. Admiral Hawkery? Major General Norway? Or the third prince of the Empire who lives in the Ivory Tower? It's a pity that all these young people will not have the opportunity to know. Appears to be the size of a normal person. He looked at all this with a smile, and he was about to completely escape the danger zone when a tall mecha suddenly appeared. The silver-white mecha that was 20 or 30 meters tall looked very beautiful. At this time, he symbolized the scythe of death. The jump program, no one can do anything to him at that time. The escape pod is specially made, enough to withstand a blow from the mecha. Just as the teenager smiled and waited for the jump to start, his mental power seemed to be invaded by something, and the next moment he heard a mechanical voice. System 007 starts the emergency procedure, forcibly binds the host is binding. Before the mechanical sound ended, the mecha's attack had arrived, but this was nothing. There was an Anshian cannonball behind the mecha, and at this time for unknown reasons, he could not move now. I can only watch my escape pod disassembled. Before Suhi fell into a daze, fireworks exploded in front of Suhi, and there was a non-stop mechanical sound. Even if he was as calm as he was, he couldn't help but scolded him secretly. What kind of made such an idiot to be tricked by himself at such an important time? Without waiting for him to think any more, as the escape pod completely turned into fly ash, the young man disappeared into the universe. A new article has been opened. Try to save as many articles as possible. Welcome everyone to collect. Purple Chen Hall, to choose political loyalty. The young handsome emperor was surrounded by countless iron-clad soldiers at this time. Outside the Zikan temple, the fire was soaring into the sky, the sound of fighting was constant, and the smell of blood stained the entire palace. The once glorious and magnificent Zikan Hall has now turned into chaos. The guards directly surrounded the entire hall. The handsome emperor above the hall smiled and watched his enemy approach step by step. These two are the masters who came to force the palace today. Li Hao, your time of death has come. The man's handsome face was happy because of his revenge, and the woman looked at the former fiancé coldly. Li Hao, you are violent and cowardly, the provillain is close to the courtier, and the cruelty of Zhongliang. Today is your time to atone for your sins. On the body, he sneered and said, adult couples and prostitutes, they are just two careerists with their own ghosts. Whispering, no one heard. Quick, let's see where the jade seal is. It's a pity that he died so happily. Humph, he really is a useless guy. Dying, energy harvesting, system disengagement. Suhi is already in a soul state at this time, because his spiritual power is strong, and his soul power is relatively strong. At this time, Suhi is like a real person, but he is no longer the handsome young man on the throne, and his appearance is still the same. Maintaining the 15 years old when he died, but even more beautiful and noble, the whole person seems to have a soft light that makes people unable to look away. The system is very satisfied with this host. Although it was temporarily caught due to lack of energy, the previous two tasks were not very good, but this time it was very good. Some functions can be restored, but this time the feedback of world energy seems to be slower. Just when the system wondered why the world energy had not entered its body, a force powerful enough to destroy it attacked. The system was taken aback, trying to pull away from the world while protecting the host. Its only energy was not enough to bind another host. If the host dies, it will be completely finished. I still don't understand why the system that was suddenly attacked by the world consciousness did not find that Suhi's mental power and soul power no longer stayed there quietly, but turned into countless sharp blades, destroying the system. The world consciousness and Suhi's attack were completely annihilated, and at the same time Suhi almost disappeared. A few days later, a coup d'état in the Great Chu dynasty ended, and evidence was found of the former son of the Duke of Zhenqiu's government colluding with foreign enemies and intending to rebel. And the original frail disease has been greatly improved, so the prince who has been forgotten was quickly pushed to the throne. Li Rong watched everything happen. His expression was light, but he always remembered the company of that person over the years. He always remembered the day of the palace change. That person was full of energy. He looked at himself. Brother Huang, don't be surprised no matter what happens next. You have to be well. My life is this big chew. We haven't seen each other since. The body also began to lean forward. Apparently this was a late-night jump from a building. Between the lightning and flint, the teenager leaned back, exerted force on the ground with his hands, and let out a groan, but he didn't fall. Just arrived at Dasuhi and opened his eyes to look at the unfamiliar environment in front of him, and realized that he was entering a new world. Organize the original memory. Suhi was originally a star thief in the Interstellar. Because the star thief group was attacked, he was bound by a so-called villain playing system at the last second of his escape, and his body was destroyed under the ion cannon. Afterwards, under the coercion of the system, he had to travel through various worlds and play the lives of other people. In the previous world, he directly arranged a scheme based on the results of the previous two worlds. When the cannon fodder died and the system was separated from the world and was attacked by the world consciousness, it directly attacked the system. The system that originally had no energy was destroyed by Suhi due to internal and external troubles, and Suhi accidentally controlled the system. Suhi thought he was going to die. After all, neither the so-called world consciousness nor the system was a power he could understand. Fortunately, the system was separated from that world 1 second before he disappeared. The system has also been controlled by him. Exist, so have to do the task. Are just cannon fodder in the story of the hero and heroine. Being forced to bind this system, except that he has no autonomy in the choice of possession, he must be a cannon fodder opposed to the male and female protagonists, and he has absolute freedom. However, this freedom also has a price. He needs to grab the world energy with the male and female masters, otherwise he will be called the nourishment of this world. To figure this out, Suhi begins to receive the current world data. Without a strong mental power, Suhi was slower to receive the information from the system. After spending some events and watching the whole world plot, Suhi brought up a good-looking smile on the corner of his mouth, but the coldness in his eyes made people shudder. Anti-cannon fodder. As long as the plot takes place in high school in the world, the story of how the male theological master and the soft girl get together sweetly, get admitted to the university of your choice, and become a winner in life. And the of this body, Shen Rui, is a shameless perverted homosexual. An intimate photo of a man who finally committed suicide by jumping off a building. Even his suicide once again promoted the relationship between the male and female protagonists, made them understand the value of life, stopped the Cold War, and got together sweetly. These are the contents of the materials, but in Shen Rui's memory, he did have a crush on the male Song Yi, but he never showed it. Yi unexpectedly helps. As a result, one day his diary was posted on the school bulletin board. Not only that, but also the ambiguous photos of Shen Rui in the bar. In fact, those ambiguous photos were fake, it's an angle problem. Unfortunately, no one is willing to listen to Shen Rui's explanation. People look at him like they are looking at garbage, disgusting things, infectious diseases. Shen Rui, who has no friends in the first place, has become everyone. An unavoidable existence. Shen Rui wanted to explain to Song Yi that he was the only person who had given him warmth for so many years, but unfortunately all he heard was Song Yi's disgust and disdain for homosexuality. Song Yi's words also completely became Shen Rui's inner demon, especially the sentence homosexuals should die, so Shen Rui wanted to die and jumped from the 7-story building, ended his pathetic life. After sorting out all the memories in his mind, Suhi stood up. When he was leaving, he glanced at the door on the top floor. Generally speaking, the door on the top floor is generally used to prevent accidents from happening. Is locked. In Shen Rui's memory, he was confused and didn't know how to get to the top floor. So he was not sure if it was an accident or someone did it on purpose, but these are not important. From today on, Shen Rui, his life is his, and he will draw a perfect ending to his life. The wounded and weak soul made Suhi's body much worse now. According to Shen Rui's memory, he found his own bed and fell asleep. Awake again, Suhi was woken up by a wave of shaking and noise. The discomfort of his body made him get out of breath. Roll. A fierce word was spit out, accompanied by it was an unknown object that fell on the person who spoke the loudest just now. Shen Rui has always been an invisible figure, because his family is poor, and his character is inferior and weak. If Suhi was in a awake state, in order not to be noticed by the world consciousness, he would also do this, but now he is in a bad temper because of getting up and not getting a good rest. Living a pampered life made him most unable to bear the disobedience of others, and he broke out immediately. It was none other than Shen Rui on the bed. You're a lunatic. The boy blushed angrily and had a thick neck. If someone hadn't stopped him, he would have stepped forward to drag Shen Rui off the bed and beat him. The beds in the dormitory are all wooden bunk beds, surrounded by iron railings. The whole bed was kicked, and it was shaking so badly that Suhi could no longer sleep. He sat up. He was clearly on a cheap dormitory bed, but he had a feeling of being aloof. The powerful pressure made everyone present involuntarily want to bow their heads and surrender. Those cold eyes were shocked. Don't move there. I feel that they and Shen Rui are not in the same world. The imperial aura that the world is accustomed to is shocking enough for this group of high school students who are not yet deep in the world. After a while, forget it, they're all classmates. I'm going to be late, hurry up. One person made a round, and the others echoed. I left the dorm with my companions. Suhi didn't move during the whole process, just stared at everyone with a faint gaze, but this gaze brought great pressure to people, as if Shen Rui was not looking at them, but holding like a gun. After everyone left, it took a few minutes before Suhi realized what he had done before. He didn't care about the character OOC, but it was mentioned in the system that the characters were too different, easy to be discovered and expelled by the world consciousness. Suhi doesn't have the energy to go to the next world yet, so he has to maintain the character of the original owner and change it slowly. Thinking that someone said that he was going to be late, Suhi didn't dare to delay, and hurriedly packed himself and went to the classroom. Shen Rui is currently studying in the 3rd year and 7th class of Huali High School. Most of the students in this class are at the middle level. Shen Rui is no exception. Even in order to earn living expenses, his grades have declined in the last 6 months. Sharp. He was not a popular character with his classmates at first. Because of his declining grades, the teacher didn't pay much attention to him, but that was in the past, and now he is labeled a homosexual and a pervert. Teenage children are just when their 3 views have not yet been fully formed, and many times they are copying what others say. Although homosexuality is not mainstream in today's era, it is not so popular, especially it was during high school. One of the parties involved in the incident was the male of the school. According to the teacher's words, it was a proper person who would enter the University of A. The other party, Shen Rui, was usually an invisible character in the school. The first time he appeared in the public eye was in the way that his secret love diary was made public. Not only gay, but also entangled with male gods. The most important thing is that in the limited cognition of the public, Shen Rui is the kind that can play at will for money. Those photos with various men in bars let people's impression of him suddenly fell to the bottom. It's like the collision between jade and rubble. No one cares whether the rubble will be broken or not, all that matters is that the jade is stained by rubble. As soon as you enter the classroom, you can feel the disdain and rejection of everyone. This is already the norm. Originally, Shen Rui was just disliked, but since that incident broke out, no one willing to take care of him. Walking to the seat according to the original owner's memory, Suhi saw that the desk belonging to Shen Rui had been pushed to the ground, and Shen Rui's things were scattered around the table, and there were many footprints on it. Because it was close to the classroom in the corners, there are also melon rinds. Even if she had seen such a scene in the memory of the original owner, Suhi still couldn't help showing a smile. His thumb stroked his little finger, and the chill in his eyes became stronger and stronger, but it was a pity that the whole face was covered with the bangs cover most of it, so no one can see it. Pick up everything in the same way, and tidy everything up before the teacher comes in. Suhi kept his head down like the original owner throughout the class, and those who have been paying attention to Shen Rui's movements looking at each other, didn't it mean that this guy suddenly became ruthless? Don't you still look like the original coward? They conveyed this meaning in each other's eyes, and when the teacher didn't pay attention to passing notes to each other, they planned to clean up this shameless homosexuality. A few people who thought something was wrong were also watching. After Shen Rui was motionless, he ignored the strangeness in his heart. A class ends soon, and most of the teachers who are approaching the college entrance examination have the problem of procrastinating, even their middle class is no exception, until the teacher finally leaves with something. Immediately someone rushed in front of Suhi and said, "Damn pervert, why do you still have a face here? If I were you, you would already be dead." "Haha, what do you know, others are comparable, you can play, maybe you will enjoy it more." "That's right, but doesn't it say that homosexuals have AIDS? Let's not be infected." There are 5 or 6 people standing in front of Suhi, and they sing and surround Suhi in the middle. These people are also the ones who bully Shen Rui the most. Doing homework for a few people, and occasionally loaning money to a few people. Even so, if they're in a bad mood, they'll beat him up, or lock him up in a hidden place to starve him a few times. Among them is Zhao Yunlong, one of the dormitory roommates who had a conflict with Suhi this morning. He also dislikes Shen Rui the most. In his opinion, Shen Rui is simply a bug in the gutter. The deputy was timid and had a gloomy face, which made people feel uncomfortable. The most important thing is that he has a strange smell all the year round. He has also seen the other party picking up garbage. He is a classmate with such a person. He is simply him. Shame. Because of these various dislikes, he was one of the first group of people who bullied Shen Rui, but Shen Rui had picked up garbage. When he was the most difficult, he even had to come to eat. Later, when I turned 18, I didn't do anything like that and started looking for various part-time jobs. Zhao Yunlong has always held deep malice towards Shen Rui because the first time he saw Shen Rui was when he was picking up rubbish. So he didn't look up and turned a blind eye to the people around him. The original owner's situation was far worse than he expected. As for the people who provoked him, don't be in a hurry. Have a full meal. So he was sorting out all the memories of the original owner. It was already night when he arrived last night. After knowing the general situation and making sure that there was no danger for the time being, he did not check the original owner's other situation, just taking advantage of the class time to organize. This kind of timid and quiet, not daring to resist, seems normal to others, and they will have class soon. They will not make too much trouble, although other students in the class he didn't say anything, and when he looked at Shen Rui, he also had a cold expression on his face. And no one could see this change in him. It's time for the evening self-study soon, the teacher is having a meeting today, no one is in charge, and their class is not a key class. Once the teacher leaves, except for a few people who are dedicated to studying, most people it was all lively. So he has a political textbook in front of him. He has a good memory and has read almost all professional books. The original owner grew up in a distorted environment again, so it would be nice not to be crooked, not to mention his general impression of the world today. The law is not perfect, but it also guarantees the interests of most people. Suhi, who was devoted to these matters, did not react immediately when he cast a shadow in front of his eyes. The weakness of his soul and this body made it difficult for him to detect the movements of others. But after being pushed directly, his mind recovered from the book. "Hey, pervert, come here." It was one of the people who laughed at him today. Reader not returned. Irrigation nutrient solution 2018082514:28:43. Thank you, little angel, for the nutrient solution. What greeted him was either borrowing money or beating and scolding him. Occasionally, those people wanted to have fun, so they would find a place to lock him in, and then let him go after a few meals of hunger and ridicule. When I first entered this school, when I was bullied like this, even if I was as timid as the original owner, I found a teacher, but in exchange, these people were treated more harshly. After a long time, the teacher also too lazy to pay attention, the original owner is getting more and more numb. So he closed the textbook, looked up at the other party, stood up before the other party, felt uncomfortable. "Let's go." After he finished speaking, he raised his feet and walked in front. Looking at the cowardly person who has always been a little abnormal, the person who came to call suddenly remembered that Zhao Yunlong said that this kid got angry in the dormitory today. Shouldn't it be a pervert? This idea is in his mind in a flash. It was quickly forgotten by him. In the lively teachers, when Shen Rui was called out, it was quiet for a moment, and no one made a sound to stop them. What should I do if I make a noise and are targeted by those bad students? Anyway, Shen Rui's punching bag is usually a perverted homosexual, so let's just sacrifice it. Even if you can't spy on your thoughts, you can feel it from the strong rejection of those people. The boy who led the way took Suhi to the toilet of the school. For the students, this is the place to solve most of the problems. When they saw Suhi coming, everyone looked at the show. When Suhi stood in front of several people, Zhao Yunlong was the first to hold back, probably because he was frightened by a word from Suhi in the morning and left without daring to say a word. It's a big shame, so today he's been thinking about how to discipline Shen Rui so that he understands what to say and what not to say. Damn pervert, you're not very good in the morning, right? Go ahead, shameless bastard. Zhao Yunlong scolded and didn't stop. He always thought that Shen Rui was a garbage picker. His body is dirty, he never touches him, and even if he hits, he only kicks with his feet. At this time, with the scolding, his spirit became more and more excited, and he kicked Shen Rui directly without hesitation. Then clean up the other party well and let the other party understand his identity. It's a pity that this kick didn't touch Suhi. When the other party kicked over, he moved to the side, and this one kick made Zhao Yunlong's center of gravity unstable. Not only did he not kick anyone, and fell to the ground. Huali High School is a public high school, but the school facilities are relatively general. For example, although the toilets are separate toilets, there are some stains on the ground. It was as clean as a high-end hotel. There was a strange smell in the toilet, and the ground was a little damp. Unfortunately, there was a small puddle where Zhao Yunlong fell, and he fell face down again, which was naturally worse. The strange taste in his mouth made Zhao Yunlong stunned all of a sudden. His family background is very good, so he developed a temperament of a young master and took the lead in bullying Shen Rui, who was not pleasing to the eye. It can be said that Shen Rui most of the hardships during the 3 years of high school were caused by Zhao Yunlong. Who vomited and retched. The toilet water, trying to understand this matter, did not dare to make a sound, and lowered his head as if he did not see it. Zhao Yunlong didn't care about Shen Rui either, so he rushed to the pool to flush out the strange feeling in his mouth. As long as he thought about how the taste in his mouth came from, he began to feel nauseated. Unfortunately, this time Suhi was not here to play with these people. He walked leisurely behind Zhao Yunlong and kicked him lightly somewhere on his leg. The severe pain made Zhao Yunlong stand unsteady, he immediately fell back to the ground. Who and theirs? Before he could scold at him, Suhi kicked Zhao Yunlong in the chest again, and he almost fainted in the dark. Tell me, what do you want me to do? Suhi said lightly, as if nothing had happened. Bastard, you're courting death. Zhao Yunlong had never been treated like this before, and he immediately threw his fists and beat him desperately. He pressed lightly on a certain part of his chest. The pain like gouging out flesh and bones quickly spread from the position under He's feet to Zhao Yunlong's whole body. He felt the blackening feeling in front of him again, but when he was about to faint, he slowed down. "You guys better stay still, otherwise I can't guarantee what will happen to this young master." He's tone was very gentle, but no one around dared to move. They could see clearly, Shen Rui just touched Zhao Yunlong lightly, and Zhao Yunlong fell to the ground, sweating all over his body. It will swell red, roll his eyes as if breathless, and then turn pale as paper for a while. The whole person seems to be a puppet doll in Shen Rui's hands, and may die at any time. However these people are, they are still just bad students in the school. Extortion, bullies do nothing less, beat people not once or twice, but it involves human life. They were still somewhat guilty, and after He's words, they just stood still. Zhao Yunlong, who was watching this scene, almost vomited blood out of breath. He wanted to tell them to leave him alone and beat this kid first, but he didn't know how Shen Rui did it. As long as he exerted a little force, he felt like he couldn't breathe. At this time, Zhao Yunlong also found that Shen Rui was no longer the one who was bullied by them. This young man who could control his life at any time was still quiet, but it made him feel something bad feeling. Thanks to the following little angels for the mines and nutrient solution. 1 mine was thrown. Throw time 2018082711:59:51 reader not returned. Irrigation nutrient solution 2018082711:59:05 reader light. Irrigation nutrient solution 2018082704:22:51. You, what do you want to do? Zhao Yunlong's voice trembled a little when he spoke. Even though the person in front of him was still the same, he was inexplicably a little scared. He looked at each other with a smile. He didn't want to pay too much attention to this small role, and he preferred to live according to his own way of life in the first world after getting rid of the system. Although the original owner's character needs to be maintained for now, it doesn't take too much time to deal with Zhao Yunlong, a young adult, but it can save him a lot of trouble. The foot that stepped on Zhao Yunlong's chest moved up, tugging up the boy's chin. His teenage years are young, high-spirited, and handsome. The cold air made him dare not move at this time. It makes the person who is looking directly feel a chilling feeling. "Have you heard?" He asked impatiently, exerting a little force on his feet. I know. Shocked by He's cold eyes just now, Zhao Yunlong didn't know what he answered. After hearing the satisfactory answer, He walked to the sink and turned on the tap. In the silent toilet, everyone standing or lying watched this scene with bated breath, until the young Shi Shiran. After leaving, they wanted to be turned on by the robot, and let out a big breath. He just walked out of the toilet when he saw an acquaintance, Song Yi, another protagonist of the confession incident. He looked at Shen Rui with complicated eyes, and He frowned. In order to deal with the people who took the lead in bullying the original owner, he used his remaining mental power, and naturally he didn't find out when Song Yi came or how much he heard. He and Song Yi face each other. As a god-level character in the school, he is also one of the protagonists in the plot. Song Yi has almost everything that young people imagine. Mi Bazan's height, a well-proportioned figure, high IQ, and a superior family background. Such a person is an existence that makes his peers admire and envy, but Song Yi has a good reputation in school, not only has many fans, but also many friends of the same sex. In everyone's impression, she is the perfect man. Compared with him, the original owner is a negative example. The white school uniforms washed all the year round, occasionally 1 or 2 private clothes, are also old and rustic, with bangs covering most of the face. Plus the timid and cowardly character is definitely the type of person who is most easily ignored and bullied. So after the secret love diary was posted, Shen Rui was ridiculed and violent. Point. If it weren't for his strong psychology, I'm afraid he would hide in the corner and dare not see anyone because of this. In this kind of place, especially when he had just taught those bad students a lesson with a big change in his personality, so he was also a little unsure of what to do when he was seen by the other protagonist of the incident, or the party who had a crush on the original owner. Reaction. After all, he has never had a crush on him since he was a child. When the two looked at each other, Song Yi was the first to look away, his eyes were tangled and forbear, the Zhao family is very be careful, be careful. Leaving this sentence, he walked past Suhi and entered the toilet. Suhi's eyes followed his back until the other party disappeared at the door of the toilet, and then he showed a thoughtful look. Regardless of the original owner's memory or his brief contact with Song Yi, you can feel that the other party is a very standard son of a noble family, humble and courteous, so the last straw that overwhelmed the original owner at first, let him was the sentence he wanted to commit suicide really said by Song Yi? This thought flashed through Suhi's mind and was thrown away by him. He has more important things now. Even though she tried her best to maintain the original owner's character, Suhi still couldn't bear the original owner's bad image. Fortunately, evening self-study is not an important class, and many people will skip class. Suhi followed Zhao Yunlong and several others out, but he never thought of going back. He found the place where his classmates usually went out over the wall from the memory of the original owner, and spent more than 10 minutes to go out. Then Suhi was deeply depressed. It took less than a second to put it on his body at such a height, but now he has to spend dozens or hundreds of times more time. The reason is that this body is too waste material. Despised for a moment in her heart, Suhi walked to the nearby haircut. Gloomy look is better. Half an hour later, under the astonishing eyes of the barber brother, Suhi looked at himself in the mirror. Shen Rui's appearance was unexpectedly good, with beautiful and delicate facial features, some boys and girls, the androgynous feeling. However, due to malnutrition, the skin is a little yellow, and the dark circles under the eyes make this look a lot discounted. I looked at the young man in the mirror with satisfaction. Without the bangs, the whole person looked no longer gloomy, and Suhi did not show the cowardly look of the original owner in the past, just like a little fresh meat. A feeling of thank you. Suhi handed the money to each other and thanked him politely. No thanks, it's incredible. The barber sighed. After working in this industry for so many years, it's not that he doesn't know the bonus of hairstyles to changes in appearance, but he has never seen such a big change. If Suhi just walked into the store with only 10 points, now he has 90 points, and the remaining 10 points are also because they are too thin and not so perfect. Walking down the street, ignoring the glances of everyone, Suhi was thinking about how he would get the money, just paid for the haircut. He only had $12 left in his pocket. The money is definitely not enough to support him for the rest of his life. I just saw the original appearance of the original owner, and Suhi also found out the reason why he kept bangs in Shen Rui's memory. Speaking of the original owner's parents were also vigorous when they were young. If you don't look at the ending, it is a standard Prince and Cinderella story. Unfortunately, the reality is cruel. The prince who broke with his family for the sake of love never thought that their love was no match for the real poverty, and his family had already removed him from the name. The kind and lovely Cinderella I thought was just a money-worshipping girl who tried her best to marry into a wealthy family. These are all summed up by Suhi from the memory of the original owner. The woman who can make Father Shen break with her family for her, naturally looks good. Father Shen's appearance is also very handsome. Shen Rui's appearance can be said to fully optimize the advantages of the two. In Shen Rui's memory, his parents quarreled and fought since he was a child, and later they just played with each other. He was a forgotten existence. No matter who of the two is angry, he finds that he must be beaten and scolded. It happened when Shen Rui started to hide his face when he was 10 years old, because his father drank and gambled all day long and could not get home, and his mother always dressed up and interacted with different men. Shen Rui, who already knew how to look at people's faces, learned to be independent very naturally. Down. It made Shen Rui nauseous. He struggled desperately and resisted. When he was almost desperate, the light in the room was turned on, and he saw his mother standing at the door. The despairing child burst out with strong hope and asked his mother for help. "This kid tastes really good, as long as you agree, how about giving you 100,000 yuan? The man's breath like a beast rang in his ears, and the place where his skin was touched was a little stinging. "Boss Wang still likes this." Shen Rui didn't think that her mother's choice in the face of all this was not to drive the man away, but to start talking to him about his price. Like a livestock, he was bargained at will. Coldness flowed from every part of the bone marrow. He knew that the person who was most likely to protect him was not his umbrella, but the devil who pushed him into hell. The events of the night ended with Shen's father, who happened to come home and hit this scene and beat people away. Before Shen Rui could climb out of the abyss of despair, he was cursed by Shen's father with the most vicious words. From that moment on, Shen Rui knew that no one in this world loves him, and no one wants to want him. So after Song Yi reached out to him, he desperately hoped to catch the ray of sunshine, although the final result was that the ray of sunshine completely pushed him into the arms of death. The events of that night had a great impact on Shen Rui. From then on, he stopped looking at people and walked in the corner with his head down, leaving his long hair to cover lived his own face. Even if he was punished for violating the school rules, he was unwilling to cut it off. "It's just a look. If it wasn't for the violent mood swings when I just saw the exposed face, this deeply hidden memory would not have been discovered by Suhi at all. No one would have thought of being the most deserving child safe haven. One treats kids as money-making tools and one treats them as trash." Perhaps even Shen Rui couldn't tell whether it was his mother who pushed him into the darkness that made him despair, or the scolding of his father who was driven into despair when he saw hope. Even though the original owner was full of strong and complicated emotions, Shen Rui's face was still very calm. It has been a week since Shen Rui skipped school that night. This week everyone found that Shen Rui had changed. Caused a huge stir. No one thought that Shen Rui, who was once hated by everyone, had a gloomy face and seemed to be perverted at any time, cut her bangs, and actually had such a good-looking face. Excellent appearance will always give people some advantages, especially the quiet temperament of Suhi now, which is completely different from the original cowardly appearance. Most people attribute Shen Rui's change to a change in hairstyle. As for why she suddenly cut her bangs, it was naturally because of irritation. As more and more people see Shen Rui's outstanding face, the direction of him in the school is slowly changing. In the past, Shen Rui was a disgusting ghost that everyone could step on, but now he is a good-looking gay. It doesn't seem to have changed much, but Suhi can sense that the malice he feels is much less. Even when he comes to the restaurant to eat, someone greets him. Just drive him away. There is not much time for meals in the third year of high school. Even the middle-class teacher will not give up completely. Suhi sits in the restaurant and eats lunch quietly. Only people who know him very well will find him. The mood is not very good, and the meals in the student restaurant are always a little hard to describe. Ground action. "Hat, who am I supposed to be, isn't it Shen Rui? To even have the face to eat here, standing with such a perverted homosexual is simply polluting the school's air." The female voice mercilessly despised Shen Rui. Suhi raised his eyes and recognized the identity of the other party. Wang Shuling, the heroine's friend, always sneered at Shen Rui every time he saw Shen Rui, and looked high. In the plot, she also likes Song Yi very much. After Song Yi and Suran fell in love, she retired sadly. The heroine did not know her friends from beginning to end, and she also liked her boyfriend. From the other party's eyes, Suhi saw not only disgust, dislike, but also a subtle jealousy. Envy? Facing Shen Rui's expression on the other side, Suhi was a little amused. The other party has to leave Shen Rui ridiculed every time to stop. After the secret love diary was published, it was even more so. The Admiral poured water on the original owner and threw the original owner's books downstairs. It was this person who did it. It can be said that Suran is the most sturdy fighting force around this soft girl. What are you looking at? I don't know what's going on in school, and I don't know what's going on in school. This kind of perverted homosexuality should be expelled. He with so many men. Who knows if there is any mess? The maliciousness in Wang Shuiling's eyes was too obvious. If Shen Rui was here, I am afraid that because of these words, the eyes of the people around her would have slipped away, but it is a pity that Suhi is not a Shen Rui who can be beaten and scolded. Do homosexuals eat your rice or drink your water? The country has said that homosexuality is not a disease. Classmates, ignorance is not your fault, and it is your fault to show ignorance. Suhi looked at Wang Shuiling with a loving expression on the mentally retarded. The people around didn't respond at first, and when someone came back to their senses and let out a laugh, after a while, there were twos and threes of laughter around. Things did not develop as he expected. Shen Rui not only left without shame, but dared to retort, which made Wang Shuiling, who had always looked down on him, intolerable. Especially the laughter of the people around her made her clearly understand that she was being laughed at, and that she was the Shen Rui she looked down on the most, which made Wang Shuiling unbearable. Under the impulse, she planned to smash her meal at Shen Rui regardless. At this time, a tall figure appeared between the two. Wang Shuiling looked intently, the original anger changed to shy, the movements of his hands stopped unconsciously. Song Yi. Don't say what Suran thinks about this embarrassed name with a coquettish connotation. Suhi has only one feeling, which is too coincidental. Student Wang, please don't insult your classmates at will. Song Yi's brows and eyes were cold, and he didn't look at Suran who was on the side. Feel sorry. Suhi was a little confused. He didn't know why the male protagonist suddenly apologized to him, but he had a good impression of the other party. He nodded, even if it was over. To be honest, Song Yi and him have a lot of coincidences, but it's not that Suhi is self-motivated and feels that Song Yi has something to him. From the original owner's memory, you can see that Shen Rui has been raped several times. Bullying, it is Song Yi who helps to clear the siege. This kind of scene is not once or twice. Suhi, who knows the plot, thinks it is the influence between the protagonist and Cannon Fodder. On purpose. The eyes that almost pierced him in front made Suhi deeply understand that although this heroine did not say a word from beginning to end, she was obviously not the innocent and kind soft girl in the plot. The gaze disappeared in a flash, and when Suhi looked up, it disappeared. Suran stood quietly, fiddling with his corner with one hand, and lowered his head not to see what was happening in front of him. Obviously she looks like a little girl who is awkward with Song Yi, but Suhi doesn't feel like the master who got her attention by mistake. It's really interesting, no matter the male lead or the female lead, and the performance in the plot is not the same. Suhi's eyes just swept past Suran, nodded to Song Yi, and left the Azura field. The scene of the restaurant spread quickly. Like Wang Shuiling, she used to scold Shen Rui as a homosexual and a pervert. Because of Shen Rui's words, she calmed down a lot. It is true that homosexuality is not a popular trend, but others have not hurt others. Why do they hate it so much? I like it very much, but in reality, the first reaction is nausea, disgust, and many people start to reflect. When the news about Shen Rui's crush on Song Yi spread out before, their first reaction was to curse, as if Shen Rui didn't have a crush, but robbed their boyfriend. Seriously, this matter has nothing to do with others. It doesn't matter, it's just like what others say. Suhi didn't know about this. He was very busy during this time, and he didn't care about the school's petty troubles. It seemed that Zhao Yunlong and the others were also afraid of being cleaned up by him. He was quite quiet. Since she entered high school, Shen Rui made money by working by herself. Before, she used to work in some small restaurants and other places that did not require identification, so she could barely make ends meet. He turned 18 not long ago, and he went to work in a bar. Before Suhi entered this body, because of the exposure of his secret love and intimate photos with different men in the bar, Shen Rui was under enormous pressure every day, and he never thought about working. In addition, he doesn't have a mobile phone, and the other party can't get in touch even if he wants to contact him. Needless to say, the job is definitely gone. So he doesn't reject working in a bar, but it's not too slow to make money like that. The bar is mixed, and with his current appearance and identity, it is inevitable that he will cause trouble, so after thinking about it, Suhi has no more been to the bar. I have no money, and I have to maintain daily expenses, as well as the cost of going to university soon. It can be said that Shen Rui is in urgent need of money now. After thinking about it, Suhi found a lot of books about computer knowledge. With a strong memory and abilities far beyond this era, Suhi quickly figured out the degree of computer development here. Compared with Suhi's time, the computers here can only be regarded as the most basic. In order to try out, I entered a professional forum, where many people will post some needs. Suhi's paragraph time means taking tasks while studying, so far it's not bad. After getting the money, the first thing Suhi did was to move out of the dormitory. Kick him out of the bedroom. The teacher can't do this, but he can't solve the contradiction between the students, but since that time, Zhao Yunlong has not dared to do anything in front of him. Only when not seen. When Suhi proposed to live off campus, he could even feel the teacher's relief. He doesn't have to worry about the cost. Diddy, is S there? A message popped up on the computer, Suhi glanced at the message out of the corner of the eye, and soon disappeared into the software. After writing the last few codes in hand, check it to make sure it is correct, save it, and click on the message that just popped up. It was a message from the forum where he was currently taking the mission, and it was also the first friend he met there, the wooden car. Yes, what's wrong? Suhi wondered why this friend suddenly contacted him. He and the wooden car became friends because of hacking technology. At that time, he was not particularly familiar with the computers of this era. The battle with the wooden car was a narrow victory, and the two became friends. The wooden car, like him, occasionally accepts tasks in the forum. Neither of them are particularly lively people, and they have the feeling of being a gentleman. And very satisfied, it is the default of this friend. A person who has never spoken much suddenly sent him a message, which made Suhi's curiosity aroused. Did you know about a recent web technology competition organized by the Rela Group? I seem to have seen it. Suhi remembered that when he opened the computer forum before, he took a look and added a fine red post on the home page. Because he was busy with this software, he planned to go back later. Look carefully. The reward is very rich, you can go and have a look. Although the tone of the wooden car was as flat as ever, Suhi could hear a sense of urgency. Answered a good answer, encrypted the software and sent it out. Suhi opened the post. The post doesn't have any fancy title, and the content after opening it also introduces the rules and rewards of this competition. The person who won the first place will not only get a bonus of 2 million, but also have the qualification to enter the Rela group. It can be seen that the entire forum is boiling because of this competition, and the floors have been restored to cover thousands of floors. Everyone has shown enough enthusiasm for this forum with only tens of thousands of people. Most of the replies below express excitement, some are meeting their idols, some are aiming for huge prizes, and some are looking for opponents in this competition. Close this thread. Someone below has started to discuss the event, and the participants, so he hastily browsed and did not see much useful information. This time the wooden car sent another link. After Suhi opened it, he entered a new post, in which all the information of the Rela group was extracted. This is a foreign-controlled company that develops electronic smart products. I entered country Z half a year ago. The whole post seems to say a lot, but if you look closely, you can see that apart from the necessary information, nothing else is said at all, so he narrowed his eyes. In any case, he is very interested in the huge bonus, and with this money, he has the startup capital in this world. For Suhi, he no longer wanted to experience the embarrassing predicament of being forced by a dime a few days ago. After telling the wooden car that she signed up, Suhi turned off the computer and went to wash. On the other end of the computer, Song Yi rarely showed a gentle look on her face. Just as Song's mother came over, she couldn't help but ask, "I is very happy today." "Well," Song Yi replied at the time. He turned off the computer and said as if remembering something, "I met a friend on the internet, and he will also participate in the competition held by the Rela group this time." Mother Song paused for a while. "If you look closely, you can find a faint blue in the beautiful light brown eyes. Song Yi has inherited her beautiful eyes." In fact, she was not very happy for her son to have contact with people over there, but she also knew that this was also an opportunity for the Song family. "Take care of yourself." After hesitating, this gentlewoman just said this. Song Yi nodded. He knew what his mother meant. The one behind Rila was not easy to mess with. "Pi, if they hesitate, some people want to grab." The next day, Suhi yawned and entered the classroom. After walking to her place, she realized that something was wrong in the class, and many people were talking about something. He listened carefully for a while, and roughly figured out the matter, and his face was not very good looking. This morning, a girl's parent came to make trouble because the girl committed suicide at home. From the discussion of her classmates, Suhi heard that the girl was the most bullied girl besides Shen Rui. Exclusion, coupled with quiet personality, often bullied. Find the girl named Chen Han in her mind. The other party is a somewhat introverted girl. Because her family is poor, she does not often participate in some class activities, and occasionally paying money is always delayed until the end. In Shen Rui's memory, several times he was borrowed money by the students who followed Zhao Yunlong, but he did not meet the other party's satisfaction. When he was beaten, he mentioned Chen Han's name. This discussion did not end until the class. During the period, Suhi found that Zhao Yunlong and the others looked different from usual. Out of intuition, he felt that the girl's affairs could not be separated from these people. Relation. Before Suhi decided whether to check what was going on, something happened. When the accident happened, it was during the second class, when everyone was in the class, and no one noticed that there was a woman who was not very sane and went to the third grade nervously. Until the other party suddenly broke into the classroom, everyone was stunned, but the woman seemed to have a goal and rushed directly to one of them. In the panic of everyone, she pulled out a knife from nowhere. The woman pulled out the knife and splattered it out, and then slashed twice. The students who were still screaming gradually disappeared. At this time, everyone who was stunned by this scene began to scream and run. The woman giggled weirdly from her throat, like a female ghost demanding her life. At this time, let alone the students, the teacher was also frightened. In the panic, 2 more people were stabbed by the woman with a knife. No one dared to step forward to stop the woman. Suhi frowned at this scene, perhaps because of mental power. He could feel the anger, despair, and madness emanating from this woman. Hair disheveled, a pair of eyes dark without a trace of light. "I caught you." The woman gave Zhao Yunlong a twisted smile. Under Zhao Yunlong's terrified eyes, she stabbed him with the knife in her hand. When faced with death, no one would not be afraid. He subconsciously caught a person, and he was about to pull the other person forward, trying to block the attack for him. The next moment Zhao Yunlong screamed, and a wound appeared in his abdomen. The woman obviously paid more attention to Zhao Yunlong. She did not kill him directly like other people, but when the other party lost the ability to resist at the same time, squat down along the opponent's strength. "Don't you like this very much?" Probably only Suhi, the person who was very close, and the client heard this sentence. The woman's hand was very stable, and one knife after another wound appeared on Zhao Yunlong's body, which was painful but not fatal. "Let me go, please, let me go." Zhao Yunlong prayed in horror. A strange smell emanated from the air, and his lower body was so frightened that he became incontinent. This scene seemed to arouse the woman's interest. She looked at Zhao Yunlong's lower body, her eyes became colder and more crazy. So he saw this time, the school security, and several men were already surrounded come up. And NBSP, and NBSP, and NBSP, and NBSP, Just when the woman was restrained, her knife looked steadily at Zhao Yunlong's lower third, and in the process of struggling, she also looked at the opponent's lifeblood several times. Zhao Yunlong's tragic cry made everyone around who saw this scene almost scared to pee. The woman's knife was very fast, and she used all her strength in those few strokes. Not only was Zhao Yunlong chopped off below, but also the bones in the right leg were deeply visible. Although the next few knives were not as powerful as the first knife, they also made Zhao Yunlong's lower body no longer possible to recover. Giggle gig, dead, all dead, Han Han's mother avenged you, ha 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 ha. The woman's appearance was obviously abnormal. The face of the person who controlled her was a little pale, and it was really not good looking. This class is obviously impossible to take. Some timid students have been scared to cry, only Suhi can be called calm. He feels a complex look at him, looking up to An Song-yi's eyes. Raise your eyebrows, this male protagonist is really destined to him. Unsurprisingly, I saw the heroine next to the male protagonist. It seems that there is no death of the original protagonist, and the two are still in the Cold War period. Perhaps aware of Suhi's gaze, the heroine Suran was so frightened that her pale face turned even paler. She looked pitiful, and the boys couldn't help but want to protect Suran. In the plot she was such a soft girl, but when Suhi thought about Shen Rui's decision to commit suicide, what he saw was Suran and another person standing at the corner of the teaching building. He only saw Suran's bright smile, and said coquettishly to the other person, I heard that a boy likes you. Homosexuality is the most disgusting thing, being alone like him like it, it's disgusting, gaze, if he really likes me. It is because of this sentence that the original owner chose to jump off the building to end his life. Suhi bowed his head. He was not the original owner. Throwing away the emotional shackles, he could also realize that Song Yi was not such a person after a few contacts. If it wasn't Song Yi who was talking to Suran at that time, it would be really interesting. He keenly noticed that when Song Yi looked at him, Suran's eyes hid deep disgust and resentment. Suhi's class was given a day off by the teacher on this day. For high school seniors, at such a tense time, a day off is unbelievable. The young students saw the murder scene directly, and the teacher could only let them rest for a day. Suhi just walked out of the classroom when Song Yi stopped him. He frowned, "Are you all right?" Probably because he saw Shen Rui being bullied several times, and the matter of Zhao Yunlong just now happened again. It happened right under his nose. Song Yi asked a rare question. Looking at the handsome young man in front of him, the other party still carried the youthful innocence of a young man. Although he was a little uncomfortable because of the previous events, he still cared about his classmates and gained the upper hand. For Song Yi, he also felt that he had some fate with the young man in front of him, and he happened to rescue him several times. School violence can happen in any school. No matter how much outsiders help, it's useless if you can't stand up yourself. So although Song Yi helped Shen Rui, she didn't mean to have a deep friendship. Even if it was the secret love diary later, and those photos were posted, he just thought that Shen Rui should not be such a person, but the last time in the toilet changed Song Yi's view of Shen Rui. It has changed, and I am somewhat relieved to see my classmates grow up and know how to resist, so I asked one more question at this time. Song Yi, I want to ask you something. Suhi didn't answer his question, looked at him for a while, and seemed to have made a decision. The boy's thick eyelashes and drooping eyes made it difficult to see his eyes, but he could also perceive his nervousness at this time. What's the matter? Song Yi was a little surprised. He thought that with the character of the other party, he wouldn't dare to say a word to him even after graduation. The contact between the two attracted a lot of onlookers. After all, they were the parties to the secret love incident that once caused a sensation in the school. Some people said that Song Yi hated Shen Rui very much. Now, some words seem to be unbelievable. Do you hate homosexuality? The boy's crow feather trembled slightly, and there seemed to be galaxies flowing in his raised eyes. At this time, his delicate and beautiful facial features were against the sun. He kind of walked out of the sun. The illusion, nice and clean. The first story will be longer, so the pace is slower. The content involved in the first story is written by the author himself. If there are mistakes, you can point out, and don't combine it with real technology.